Imagine an army of 20,000 soldiers marching boldly into enemy territory. Fully armed and battle-hardened veterans poised for war. Yet within just 48 hours, not a single soldier remains alive. Not one. The chilling reality is that they were not slaughtered in combat, nor executed at the hands of their adversaries. Instead, they were buried alive, screaming as they struggled for breath under heaps of earth while their queen. The architect of this horror watched from her golden throne, leisurely sipping wine and smiling in satisfaction. At this point, you may think this scenario belongs to the realm of ancient myth or exaggerated legend. However, the archaeological evidence paints a starkly different story. Unearthed mass graves reveal thousands of skeletons exhibiting signs that they were buried alive, with hands clawing at the dirt above and mouths frozen in silent screams. This was not a singular act of cruelty. This queen repeatedly employed such grotesque tactics over a span of 30 years. Queen Rajia of the Khrusan Empire transformed the nature of warfare into something profoundly horrifying, compelling enemy forces to resort to self-destruction instead of facing her armies. Her mere name inspired terror, causing soldiers to defect in droves, while generals went so far as to fake their own deaths to avoid combat with her. What unfolds next in the tale of Queen Rajia is more than a recounting of military tactics or ancient political maneuvers. It reveals how one woman harnessed the ultimate psychological weapon calculated: terror to forge an empire that would encompass more territory than Rome at its zenith, and she relished every moment of it. But how does a young girl, sold into slavery, ascend to command armies and orchestrate countless horrific deaths? How does one transition from mere property to the most feared ruler in history? The truth is even more unsettling than one might expect. Welcome to the harrowing tale of Queen Rajia. Born in 1021 in present-day Afghanistan, Rajia entered the world as a bearer of tragedy. The daughter of a slave and with an unknown father, her future appeared grim, seemingly predetermined to be filled with servitude, abuse, and an early death. Yet Rajia would later reflect on these formative years, recognizing that they imparted a crucial lesson. Those who show mercy are often the first to encounter its absence. This lesson became the cornerstone of her life's ambitions. One pivotal event marked her early years and shaped her strategic understanding of power. At just 7 years old, Rajia witnessed a horrific punishment inflicted by the local warlord on runaway slaves. Instead of executing them, he buried them alive up to their necks in the scorching sun to serve as a grim cautionary tale. For 3 agonizing days, she observed them as they slowly perished, exposed to the elements. Suffering from insect bites and desperately pleading for death, this trauma broke something within her, igniting a deep-seated ambition. By the age of 12, Rajia found herself sold to a Persian merchant who recognized her intelligence. She had taught herself to read by poring over grain labels and merchant ledgers. The merchant made a fateful decision. He took her into his household not as a slave, but as a companion for his daughter. For the first time, Rajia had access to books and education, a transformative opportunity that allowed her to study power dynamics. She keenly observed the mercantile world, learning how information could be weaponized. Knowledge, she later wrote, is the only blade that never dulls. Razia's relationship with the merchant's daughter, Gulnar, evolved from companionship to betrayal. At age 15, Gulnar unjustly accused her of theft to cover up her own misdeeds. The punishment for such a crime would typically be severe, potentially resulting in the loss of her hand. Yet Rajia stunned everyone with her response. Rather than plead for mercy, she calmly recounted Gulnar's past thievery with acute precision. Gulnar was disowned, and Rajia was granted her freedom she then chose not to take immediately. Instead, she made a calculated proposition to the merchant. She requested to manage one of his trade routes for a year, promising to double his profits. If she failed, she would willingly return to slavery. Intrigued, the merchant agreed. Little did he know, Rajia viewed this opportunity as a stepping stone to forge her empire. In the vibrant trade networks of 11th century Central Asia, information flowed as freely as goods. Rajia understood that the merchants, travelers, and soldiers she encountered were not merely conduits of commodities. They also carried stories, rumors, and intelligence. Within 6 months, she didn't just double her merchants' profits. she tripled them. More importantly, she cultivated a vast web of informants who transmitted vital intelligence about the region's power dynamics. By the time she turned 18, Razia had amassed considerable wealth and compromising information on influential figures. One such figure was a regional governor named Hassan, who had long been embezzling taxes. Instead of exposing him, she struck a deal. Marry her, and she would keep his secrets and help him achieve even greater power. Swayed by ambition, Hassan agreed. However, after a mere 13 months of marriage, he died under mysterious circumstances. Officially a tragic choking accident, but unofficially, many suspected foul play. As Hassan's widow, she inherited his wealth and influence. With newfound authority, Razia recognized an opportunity amidst the chaos of the fracturing Kharusan Empire, where various warlords vied for control. She understood that in disorder, a small force-wielding psychological tactics could prevail over larger armies. Conventional strength was not necessary. It was control over fear that would grant her victory. Her first significant military confrontation came against Mahmud, a warlord commanding 8,000 soldiers. Razia, with a mere 2,000 troops, should have been at a disadvantage. However, she did not intend to wage a typical war. 3 days prior to Mahmud's arrival, she executed a brilliant psychological strategy. Mysterious occurrences plagued his camp. Soldiers awoke to find small mounds of dirt artfully shaped like graves beside their beds. Their supplies were diluted with dirt, and rumors spread like wildfire among local villagers of the Grave Queen, who could make the earth devour her enemies. Arriving on the battlefield, Mahmud found Razia digging a colossal pit in plain sight, clearly meant to serve as a mass grave. She sent him an ominous message, informing him that his grave had already been prepared, that he could choose to lie in it that day or surrender to her. Overnight, half of Mahmud's army deserted in fear. The remaining soldiers faced the nightmarish wrath of Razia's forces, who had transformed the battlefield into a trap with hidden pits designed to ensnare the unwary. What ensued was a scene of terror. Hundreds of Mahmud's men were buried alive amidst their desperate screams echoing across the landscape. This grotesque victory solidified Razia's reputation as a formidable ruler. In the ensuing year, she conquered 12 provinces without engaging in traditional battles. As whispers of her barbaric strategy spread, enemy armies fled at the mere mention of her name, while entire cities surrendered to avoid the horrific fate that awaited them. Her dominion extended from the territories of modern Iran to Pakistan. At the height of her powers, Razia commanded a force of 30,000 soldiers, though she rarely needed to deploy them. Her reputation became her most potent weapon. Foreign ambassadors visiting her court spoke of disturbing spectacles: a palace courtyard paved with glass panels revealing shallow graves containing those she de-entombed, visible to all who walked overhead. She conducted state meetings from her throne position directly above these graves, coolly discussing matters of state while her victims writhed below. However, power built on fear comes with inherent traps. It demands constant escalation, as terror can quickly lose its efficacy when people adapt. Razia, having been consumed by her own machinations, became increasingly unstable. Palace staff reported her obsession with the faces of the dying beneath her glass-covered graves. Her mental state deteriorated, leading her to demand ever more brutal displays of loyalty from her generals, even ordering them to bury their own men for minor infractions. In Baghdad, the Caliph, the nominal ruler of the Islamic world, could no longer ignore Razia's heinous reputation. Religious leaders began to denounce her as unholy, claiming she had denied fallen soldiers an honorable death. Internal dissent simmered as her own generals grew uneasy with her methods. One officer, Yusuf, who had served her faithfully for 5 years, finally confronted her after witnessing her order to bury already surrendered prisoners. He eloquently remarked, "My queen, we have become the monsters we once fought against." In response, she condemned him to a fate worse than death, ordering him buried alive before the court, a cruel display meant to reinforce her supremacy. Yet, in an act of hubris, she made a critical error: she allowed Yusuf's brother, Omar, to witness the execution. Encouraged by this share of trauma, Omar began to secretly rally a coalition against her, reaching out to former allies and enemies alike with a harrowing message. The Grave Queen must be stopped, or they would all meet their demise. As winter set in during the year 1051, cracks began to appear in her empire. Omar's conspirators had spent months plotting to capitalize on Razia's vulnerabilities. They initiated their psychological onslaught, subtle yet profound. Razia woke to find dirt in her bedchamber, a couple of grains in her wine, and her mirror smudged with mud. This led her to experience profound paranoia that the very earth she had manipulated for years was now conspiring against her. As her mind unraveled, so too did her reign. Provinces that had once submitted to her rule sensed her weakness and revolted. The coalition against her gained traction, and on March 15, 1051, they struck. But instead of engaging in open warfare, they sealed every exit and window of the palace, systematically filling it with earth until she was caged within her own throne room. The same horrific fate she had inflicted on countless others was now her reality. And as she suffocated beneath the weight of the dirt, she achieved a profound understanding of the terror she had dispensed. Legend has it that she uttered the words, "The earth always reclaims its own," before succumbing to the very forces she had used to instill fear. When the palace was excavated 3 days later, they discovered Razia's lifeless form, seated on her throne, hands gripping the armrests, as if refusing to relinquish her power even in death. Her conspirators dismantled her legacy, erasing traces of her atrocities. But as history often teaches, memories cannot be so easily buried. Ultimately, it was the common soldiers and civilians, the people caught in the crossfire of her reign of terror, who suffered the most. Archaeological digs have revealed mass graves containing over 50,000 bodies, all showing signs of having been buried alive. Whole generations were left haunted by nightmares of suffocation beneath the earth. Queen Razia's story is a somber reminder that power wielded through fear can triumph temporarily, but it breeds resentment and revolution, even as it ultimately leads to self-destruction. Subscribe to our channel and press the bell icon to support our work and never miss an upload. Like this video, drop a comment, and share it with others to show your support and help us grow this historical community.